Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets.
I know the line has been moving around a little bit, but as of right now, the 49ers are a couple-point favorites. I know even if the 49ers were 20-point favorites, Mike would still be nervous watching that game.
Fact. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Jenkins. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58, with code Jenkins. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Welcome to Jenkins Jonez on the Volume Podcast Network. It is Saturday, February 3rd, and we're going to jump straight into it. We are so excited to welcome on the one and only Mina Kimes. Mina, thanks for hopping on with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Not a lot going on right now, so glad to clear an hour or so.
Yeah, how many shows are you doing from the end of the NFC Championship game to the kickoff of the Super Bowl? How many hours are you spending filmed?
This actually is a pretty quiet time. I know I'm being a little sarcastic, but there's kind of nothing to talk about. Pro Bowl is happening. We don't really want to dive into the matchups too heavy on all of our shows because that's what we do the week before the Super Bowl. So this is a fairly quiet week after. I guess the coaching news tends to occupy us a bit because all the coaching positions have been filled, and that gives us a lot to talk about. But otherwise, it's not too bad.
Yeah. All right, you know how people say such and such is my Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is really your Super Bowl. Like, funny how that works.
Yeah, that and the Love Is Blind reunion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a tease up front that Mina, it's like, I think we've got at least three of your top four interests. I would have to guess that we've had you on to talk about ranking fruit, the Super Bowl, and we're going to have you on at some point later to talk about Love Is Blind. Where is that? If you're making a top 5 list, how many, where are we on the slots with those?
Love Is Blind, I get pretty into, I gotta say.
Hey.
So, and it's perfect this year because it literally drops right after my actual Super Bowl. So it could not be better. Yeah, it could not be better for me.
All right. My first question, you posted a tweet yesterday that actually made me shoot a hot tea out of my nose. And so I have a question, which is, are you sports media's Kevin Durant? Are you the purest poster? Are you the purest, most degenerate Twitter poster?
You want to talk about this?
Yes. I don't want to talk about, you don't need to talk about the subject, but you are really a Twitter creature, just like that,
you have your fingers on the pulse.
Do we want to give the listeners any context? Because
please, I want to see
that's up to you. I'm not going to give your context.
Yeah, I feel like that's your call. Yes, you give all the context.
Yeah, you don't need to give any context.
I will say when I nodded to it. Okay, okay. So first I'll give the PG context. There is a tweet about me from, I don't even know what year it was, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's been a minute.
It's from the homie No Cut Card. Shouts to the homie No Cut Card. And it was followed up by the homie PBS Infos. Shouts to the homie PBS Infos too.
So it's a bit graphic, but every time it just resurfaces a lot in my life. And look, if you guys the amount of negative shit I get, I would never be bothered by something like this in comparison. I actually find it kind of funny because, most 90% of Twitter is telling me to, walk into the ocean and quit my job or something like that and DEI this and DEI that. So some guy saying yes does not bother me. But anyways, so you guys can look it up if you're listening. So I was excited about the news that my beloved Seattle Seahawks might be hiring former Huskies offensive coordinator who went to Alabama, Ryan Grubb. So I used a screenshot of this tweet saying yes to indicate my level of excitement, which produced a great two Americas moment. Because
Yeah,
I would say 50% of my followers knew about it and got it immediately. And the other 50% were like, so Ryan Grubb in the NFL, like what kind of schematic evolution, what do you think we're gonna do? You seem excited about it. That's great. Let's talk about it. But I'll just say about my posting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta let people know. I'm watching you. I see you. I'm on to you. You're not slick. I know what you're doing. I know. I'm not saying I condone it. I'm not saying I reject it. I just want you to know that I'm on to you.
Got your fingers on the pulse. I feel you.
That's all. That's all I have to say about that.
Back to football?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Mina, you mentioned you didn't want to get too heavy into the Super Bowl matchup. So let's talk about the championship games. I want to talk about the AFC Championship game up front because that was like the marquee matchup of perhaps the two top quarterbacks in the game, and it was a 17-10 game where nobody scored in the second half, and the story seems to be Lamar fell short. Lamar couldn't get it done again. And while there might be a discussion to be had about how Lamar has really never really quite put together a consistently impressive postseason so far in his career, and while that might be a conversation that there is to be had, it's February, so I personally will not be participating. You can shoot me an invite for a meeting on March 1st so we can resume that, but not in February.
That's the St. Patrick's Day conversation for Tyler.
Right. Not in Black History Month, bro. But in all seriousness, right, Lamar didn't show up as needed during that game. But I do think the story of that championship game is bigger than Lamar. I think the story there is how Kansas City's defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo, just ran laps around the Ravens' offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, right? And Todd Monken, he made it so easy for that to be the case with the bullshit he was scheming up. And, Baltimore is the number one rushing offense in the league. They're going up against the number 18 rushing defense in the league in Kansas City. A rushing defense that gave up 182 yards in the previous game against Buffalo on the ground. And they called 6 running plays when the ball went to the running back. And I'm not piling on Monken here, right? Because the play calling he put on this first season with the Ravens was a masterclass. It was incredible, right? The finagling he was able to do with that offense where he kept the foundational, Greg Roman power running game. That was the identity of the Ravens intact. And, he added his wrinkle with the 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. He was just out there wreaking havoc, but it's he didn't commit to the run here, to keep the defense honest. Spags blitzed 50% of the play calls. It was just a befuddling, game to watch from that perspective. So where do you stand with that?
Yeah, befuddling is the right word. It was really frustrating because going into it, I and literally every analyst on earth pointed to that mismatch in the run game versus the run defense as being a very obvious thing that Baltimore could exploit that would make it such a great game. And then they just didn't. Some of it is, opportunities, drives don't go your way. Sometimes you throw instead of handing it off on an RPO. We don't really, know exactly everything that factors into run pass balance from the outside, but undeniably they could have run more. And I would put it on both Monken and also Lamar. I mean, there were so many moments where I was like, dude, take off. You're Lamar Jackson. This is the 4-man rush. I see a lane. And he just wouldn't. It was weird. I don't know. So I was frustrated with both the quarterback and the play caller. But I do think, you got to get a lot of credit to the Chiefs defense and Spagnuolo. I mean, this is a defense that's been good all year long. And it was kind of like if there was one underrated storyline in the postseason, I think it is how good the Chiefs defense was, how much they carried them when the offense was going through their struggles, the physicality that they play with, especially on the back end. Those corners are so L'Jarius Sneed, who punched out the Zay Flowers ball at the goal line, has been amazing this year, and it's kind of flown under the radar. So they deserve you can't really say flowers, but they deserve love for what they did in that game too, because you got to give them equal parts credit.
Yeah, going back to what you said about how we were confused at why Lamar just really seemed to not take off. There's a clip when Odell is on the bench with him. He's like, bro, he's like, man, you got to get out here and scramble a bit. He's like, that's when shit opens up for us, man. And Lamar just, I don't know, he just wasn't himself. And I don't know if Lamar listens to all the noise that's been surrounding him, You know, I don't know if he feels like he has to kind of win from the pocket to prove the haters wrong, but I mean, we saw what happened after that quarterbacky shit, right? He went out there and had the best fucking game of his career, perhaps, right? Perfect quarterback rating, 5 TDs, 3 incompletions, ball the hell out. But it's just, I don't know. I'm not someone who's, like I said, I'm not going to pile on Lamar. I think that, you know, he's still young, he's still early in his career. You know, he's 2-4 in the playoffs so far. I think that I'm on the side that, you know, he'll figure it out, not that he doesn't have the goods. That's for sure where I'm at.
He's 27. He's
Right.
younger than like some of the second year. I mean, not first, but he's really young. And the offense changed. You alluded to this so much this year. They improved so much as the year went on. There's no reason to think that they can't improve again next year. They have a lot of free agents on the defensive side, but offensively, it's pretty intact. I think they could add another wide receiver. But, you know, Zay Flowers was amazing. I love Isaiah Likely, the young tight end. Andrews missed a lot of the season. They're going to have to replace Gus Edwards or bring him back, but they should be really good next year. And the other thing about Lamar is he's been hurt a lot at the end of seasons. This is the first time in a minute that he's going to have a full, healthy off season. And so I think you can't underestimate that going into next year, even if this felt like it was their year. I picked them to win this game. I thought they would win the Super Bowl. It sucks. But you know, he'll be back.
It does feel like, though, I had the same thought that Tyler said, like that clip with Odell was like, it was heartbreaking, you know, like we obviously we talk more basketball on our show. Like this sort of happened, it felt like, with Kevin Durant on the Warriors, where it was acknowledged afterwards that like a lot of the just like Twitter narrative bullshit, like, you know, these dudes are human beings. And if that's like what you're seeing and hearing all the time, of course you think about it. Of course it bothers you. And I do wonder, you know, not necessarily even just with Lamar, but if that's something that the Ravens, you know, play callers are thinking about, of like, our guy can, you know, can do everything. Cause it was just so confusing, the reversal of what I expect to see. Cause I thought they were just going to be running it on the whole game. So I don't know, but that's a interesting point, that it's like, maybe there's some crossover there between the narratives and a human being on the other side of it, who's like, fuck, I got Pat Mahomes on the other side. Like I got to throw the ball, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially because in that second, I think it was the second drive, he threw the bomb to Flowers. And at that moment I was like, this is going to be the greatest football game of our lives. And then it just kind of went downhill. I don't even Matt Mahomes like scored 3 points after that. The rest of the game, the Ravens defense locked up. And I was thinking it more so than like the play caller and the quarterback thinking about, you know, some random radio host somewhere calling Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Something. I think it was there. I'm sure the thought, oh, look at that guy on the other 15's on the other side. We have to be explosive. We have to sustain the pace we did on this first drive. That might have crept into it. And you know, they're human. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like you and I are on a very small island in the middle of a big ocean of extreme Brock Purdy takes, and I appreciate having a fellow moderate Brock Purdy take haver on the on the podcast. On your YouTube channel, you had a great video that went up today, not arguing that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback, but simply arguing that he's better than a game manager. And for whatever reason, there's just not a lot of people sitting in the middle ground on Brock Purdy. I'm a Niners fan. I'm sick to my stomach that it's Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes. I'm thinking about every other matchup in the game for next weekend. But could you just sort of summarize the argument you made in that? Because I thought it was perfect in saying, like, hey, there actually is something between a top 3 quarterback and a dude who, like, Kyle Shanahan is like buttoning his pants for him and just like spoon feeding him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hate this Brock Purdy story because everyone's kind of just yelling around each other, and like there's so many straw men on both sides, right? Like if you say he's not Mahomes or Lamar or whatever, people say you're hating. No, I'm not hating. Like, how is that hating? That's like a very, you know. Or if you say he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, you think he's elite? Like, no, I don't think he's elite. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I think the middle ground is absolutely the correct one here.
Yeah.
It doesn't help though. Like when you see tweets like, you know, what was the one that went the one that compared him to Joe Montana. Every now and then, like a take will catch fire.
It was one of the national columnist guys who was like, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't at his best, but he did enough to win the game.
That dude.
That's the kind of thing that Joe Montana.
Brock Purdy, though, yo, like that dude loves him more than I maybe love my dog. Like it's crazy. Like,
dude is already writing the teasers for the Disney movie. And shit
you know,
right?
you know, if you're a Niners fan, you've seen the tweets.
It's just I can't go on the internet. He does love him, and I can't It's like I can't even talk to my friend. Like the only person I talked to about the Niners is my mom and my brother at this point, because it's like, hey, we played well.
It really is like politics or something, right? Like there's, like probably like a large swath of America that doesn't want, anyways. And similar to politics, I'm like, oh, you want a Brock Purdy take? All right, let me put on my bulletproof vest. Let's make sure this is an aggregate. I got to couch everything so that it doesn't get into the wrong hands. Totally.
This is going to break containment. Like the crazy people are going to see this. I've got to tread very carefully.
I tried to do that in my video. Anyways, the point I made was just that I do think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think he's different from him in ways that are probably going to be really important in the Super Bowl, that have been important in the playoffs. And it doesn't mean that he's like, I actually find the critiques of him, like the whole game manager thing, is kind of stupid, because there is a correct critique of Brock Purdy. He throws balls that should be intercepted. You've seen that in the playoffs. That's very different from being a game manager, which is an incorrect critique of him, because he's very good. I think his mobility has really impressed me in the playoffs. It was huge, obviously, in the championship game. 3 massive scrambles, some throws on the run. And then he uses more of the football field than Garoppolo did. Garoppolo did not push the ball downfield. He didn't really throw outside the numbers. Brock does both of those things at a pretty high level. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying he has like Josh Allen arm talent. He clearly doesn't, but he definitely takes more risks than Garoppolo did. And the fact that he can do that, and then he has his legs, it really impacts the way defenses can play them, because the Niners offense gives you so much to worry about, and so, both schematically, and then obviously they're fielding the Monstars out there. You can have everything perfectly covered up. That's what happened on one of those runs. And Brock Purdy's like, all right, I'll just take off. I got 20 yards. And that's deadly, man. That's deadly.
I feel like Brock Purdy has transcended into that realm of discussion where the debate about him isn't even necessarily about him anymore. It's more about people wanting to be like, hey, I was right about this guy all along, right? I feel like that's where we're at with Brock right now. And the thing about Brock Purdy is every game he plays is like the most Brock Purdy-est game ever, right? Right. So like whatever side of the debate that you're on, regarding Purdy, you got all the film you need in every game pretty much, right? Like if you're on the side that Brock Purdy's luck is going to run out one of these days, the laws of averages are going to start averaging, and the shit he's been getting away with is going to come back and bite him in the ass at the worst possible time. You have all the footage like in that NFC Championship game where he had a largely subpar first half. The biggest pass he threw was a botched interception that literally bounced off the fucking face of a Detroit defender.
Niners fans were mad at me for merely posting that clip. I didn't even say anything about it. They were like, why you got to bring that up? I'm like, it was the big... It happened. It was funny.
Right.
Sorry.
It was fucking hilarious. No,
they're crazy.
No,
they're crazy.
Right.
My fellow Niners fans are crazy on the internet about all of it. Yes.
And then if you think he's a guy who is going to be a stud and work through the growing pains, and he's going to be a problem when he really figures it out. You look at the championship game, you for sure have your film there where, he made a bunch of big plays on, on the scramble, like you said, Mina, where, made a bunch of big throws. I mean, the dude is just like, he's like the human embodiment of like confirmation bias. Like whatever you want to see with Brock Purdy, you'll see like that picture, that's the drawing of like, you either look at it and it's an old lady with a big nose, or like a pretty young lady in like a fur jacket. Brock Purdy is like the NFL version of that picture.
The best part is he seems like totally oblivious to all of it. Like every time he's interviewed, he's like, I don't know. Okay. Like he's just like, he seems like nice, and like he's like, I'm just doing what I can to help the team, and like the fact that all this debate is swirling around him is just so funny.
He's successfully George Michael from Arrested Developing his way through all of the crazy narratives, and he's just like, what are we doing? Like,
hey, there's Devo. Yeah.
Is it right?
It's great. I love it. I mean,
So give me some hope as a Niners fan. You know, I know like you said, you guys will do a lot of your Super Bowl analysis next week, but like I'm a believer in what you're a believer in, that the wins, like quarterbacks are not only evaluated on wins in the postseason, etc. However, all of that being said, we talked about this in the last show. I can stack all of those thoughts up, and larger than those thoughts is the fear of, oh, fuck, they do have Pat Mahomes on the other team, though, don't they? You know? So what's my case as a Niners fan for having any amount of confidence going into the Super Bowl?
I think your offense matches well with their defense. I mean, all this stuff we were complaining about that the Ravens didn't do. Shanahan will gladly run the football on Kansas City. I think Christian McCaffrey matches up well with them. They love to blitz. I don't think they'll blitz to the same degree that they blitzed Lamar, but Purdy has been outstanding against the blitz. And George Kittle in particular averages the most yards per target when thrown off of the blitz, which is insane for a tight end. It's like 14 or something ridiculous. The aforementioned Monstars are basically impossible to defend. The only way the offense gets stopped is if the quarterback has a really off day. Last I checked, there won't be a thunderstorm, so that should help.
Indoors, hopefully,
So I really do think this is going to be high scoring. I think both offenses match up well with both defenses. So, so I think I would feel pretty good about your offense against the Chiefs. And then defense wise, I know that the Chiefs offense has looked much better lately.
Yeah.
But they are coming off a game where they only scored 3 points in the remaining 3 quarters. Talked about that. Was it 3 quarters? I don't know. The Ravens defense shut them down at a certain point. Before that, they played a super injured Dolphins defense. So I think they're improved, and we appear to be getting playoff Kelsey again, which is of course a nightmare, but they're not as dominant as they were the last time you guys played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's basically what I got. And then the case for the Chiefs is much easier because it is that they have
fucking Patrick Mahomes, right? Like that guy, number 15.
Do you guys like him? What's your temperature on him?
I think he's the greatest quarterback ever. And like I said, I think he's just at the point where he just needs to make that resume more bulletproof for the non-believers at this point. He's for sure the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. No question.
That's what I agree with you. Yeah, no, it's we get this email the night before First Take. That's First Take questions. It's actually an amazing text, as you can imagine, because they're just trying to foment debate and writing these questions too. It's really it's a difficult job sometimes. But one of them was, it's always like, who's under more pressure? This player, is he elite? This guy is whatever.
Yeah.
And who's better, LeBron or Brock Purdy? And one of the questions was, what would be a better story? Mr. Irrelevant winning Super Bowl, lowest drafted player, to do so, or Patrick Mahomes winning. And at first I was like, well, obviously, like the Cinderella story of Brock Purdy is crazy. But then I was like, wait a second, no, because Patrick Mahomes, this gets him closer to the unimpeachable greatest of all time. I already think he's the best quarterback to play, but when I think about greatest, you're talking about accomplishments, rings,
accolades,
very, very hard to catch up with Brady. And if he were to do this, I mean, the dude's been to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. Like, that's fucking insane. So that's an amazing story. And yeah, I'm Mahomes has answered every question I've ever had of him.
Yeah.
He's still throwing to MVS. Would you still throw to MVS?
And he has successfully convinced him, even if only for like a 3-week period, that he's a great receiver. You know what I mean? Like the fact that third down play goes to him. Right?
There was I can't remember what this game. One of the games where maybe it was the Packers where MVS dropped in their pass and MVS looked at him like that was off, and I was like, "You motherfucker!"
Yeah, right, nerd, right?
Like, how dare you? And that was the one. No, I was talking about this. But that was the one where Mahomes lost his mind on the refs. So it was the
Bills game.
The Bills game. Sorry. And I am like, that Mahomes losing his mind on the refs is the greatest show of leadership by an athlete I've ever seen, because he is taking all of his anger at his teammates and directing it at the refs.
Exactly.
And now he's getting the payoff. He never freaked out at this dude, and now he's catching the ball again.
It's like that moment he had with Josh Allen. He's like, man, that was the biggest bullshit call I ever saw. Like you saw all the frustration of this season in him right in that moment. Like, bro, I am getting screwed over here. I am playing, I am the best fucking football player on the planet, and they got me with these guys, and I'm still, trying to make shit shake.
That was when Josh was like, yeah, man.
Yeah. It was a very relatable interaction on both sides of it. It's like he's so mad. He's just like, "Why are you saying this to Josh Allen?" And Josh Allen's like, "Yeah, man, great game."
They both seem cool. I don't know. I like them both. Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question I had for you. You are seem to be, and maybe I'm wrong. You seem to be a media person who genuinely still loves the sport that they cover, which is is not every person in sports media. Are you getting like the end of football blues? Are you like sad about it, or are you ready for a break on the other side of the Super Bowl?
This is not when the break starts. Combine's 2 weeks later. So as soon as the Super Bowl ends, I am on to Caleb Williams and Drake May.
But that's the job, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like within your job, you still enjoy watching football, and that won't.
yeah.
I mean, with all due respect to the combine, like there won't be games for 6 months. Like it took Hunter S. Thompson out this week after the Super Bowl, right? So
it's true. I do love watching the college players there because I like college football. I'm a fan, but like I don't really dig into like I haven't like really dug into Caleb Williams tape, for example, this year, and I do get pumped watching them, thinking about the bad teams and the chance that they'll turn things around. Like I'll fall in love with these players. So I love the draft process. The only time I don't enjoy my job is when, it's June and we're doing like 5 shows on where's Dalvin Cook gonna go. Just kidding, I love it. But then it's a little bleak.
that's an easy 150 minutes of discourse,
So much Dalvin Cook discourse for so few yards, y'all. It was rough. Oh my God. The Aaron Rodgers shows this summer. I'll never get those hours of my life back.
Yeah.
So can we get you on a hook for the prediction, or are you saving that for the build up week, or?
I actually haven't fully decided yet. I've started my matchup prep, but I'm not all the way done with it yet. I'm leaning slight Chiefs win because every time I pick against Patrick Mahomes is like the day when you say, I'm never drinking again. And then you never do it again but you feel like shit. And that's how I felt watching that AFC Championship game because I picked the Ravens to win that. Didn't think they wouldn't run the ball, but whatever. And I'll probably do it just purely because of Patrick Mahomes. It's why I picked them to beat the Eagles last year. And that proved to be correct along with James Bradbury holding. But yeah, I'll probably do a slight Chiefs, but I think it's really close. Like I said, I think both these offenses match up well with both these defenses.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Chiefs because of Mahomes, bro. That's it. Mike wants that Disney movie, man. That Mr. Irrelevant coming to theaters summer 2025.
I want to see those Cole's khakis, walking out of there soaked in champagne. And
have you been enjoying the whose quarterback has less drip weird thing on
that
Twitter?
Was the worst when they did that with Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. I was like, what are we doing here? Why are we calling our quarterbacks dweebs? How is this the move?
My guy's so focused. He was wearing he had like a Louis bag or something. People pointed out, but I thought that was funny.
Yeah. This does feel like, and I don't know if it's just because as the it's like a younger group of dudes coming up, and so some of the like ready-made narratives aren't there. It does feel a little like an NBA takes year for the NFL. Like it just felt like the whole year, or maybe it's just Aaron Rodgers like throwing bad vibes on the entire season. I don't know, but it just feels very like you said, like I log onto Twitter and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, the game's coming up, and it's like a friend of mine is arguing about, no, Brock Purdy's even more of a dork than this guy. It's like, what are we doing right now? Like the game is on in an hour. We don't have to do this.
I feel like it's For You. This is the first year of For You, and For You is always throwing me rage bait. It's always those tweets I mentioned of the guy who's like, Brock Purdy is the greatest quarterback to walk this earth. And I'm like, no, he's not. Why am I mad? Nobody actually thinks this.
Yeah.
I just want to count.
When I was growing up, we argued about whose dad could beat the other guy's dad's ass. And now motherfuckers are arguing about whose quarterback is the biggest dork. Like, how far have we fallen? What's wrong with these kids, bro?
I'm going to take Mahomes' dad versus Brock's dad. I will say.
They show Brock's dad a lot. The hot tub guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got one of those coffee can heads. You know what I mean? Those guys can never fight. I don't know. All right, Mina, thank you so much.
One second.
Go ahead, John.
Jackson wrote me a question. Jackson actually DM'd me and wrote me a question because he felt sorry for me. So I'm going to read his question. I do have a personal question too, but I want to. Bill Belichick, the greatest NFL coach ever. Fuck you, Jackson. Did not get a new job. I'm from St. Louis, so obviously we aren't big fans of Bill Belichick. Did not get a new job. Be honest. Did you want him to be the Seahawks coach?
No, I didn't. I was surprised he didn't get a job. We actually got the dude I wanted, who was the Ravens defensive coordinator. I wanted him the whole time to be our coach because he's been so good against your Niners. That game, I was watching him put the clamps on your offense, and I was like, give me him, because so many years of Kyle Shanahan just ruining my life over and over and over. And this Ravens defensive coordinator seems to actually have a pretty good handle on that offense. So I'm praying he can save us.
I was not happy with that hire. And you're just going through what I went through with the Legion of Boom years, where I was like, the worst part of this is that I love all of these guys. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like Richard Sherman's from Compton. I've known him since he was in high school. Like Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor. I was like, these are the exact type of football players that I love, and they're just like
Debo
dragging our corpse up and down the street.
Like my platonic ideal of a football player. He's like the hardest to tackle wide receiver and the fastest running back combined in one human. In that Ravens game, even though the Ravens beat your asses, when Marlon Humphrey like bounced off of him, I laughed so uncontrollably because it was just the funniest thing I've ever seen. So it sucks. I love all of the Niners skill players so much.
Yeah.
I love Kyle Shanahan. I think I love his offense.
Right. And you're kind of an offense. Right. 100%.
I love it,
yes.
but I fucking hate it. So they're calling our guy the Shanahanler.
I wish you nothing but failure and tears with your new coach. But yes. John, do you have one other question that Jackson didn't write?
I was wondering, like, y'all were talking about Mahomes being. I actually had these questions, but I was like, I don't want to sound stupid because I have no idea. But you were talking about Mahomes.
You didn't want to sound stupid on the Jenkins and Jones podcast. It sounds stupid what you do, bro.
There's a really smart person here. You feel me? But anyway, like, as far as like, y'all talking about Mahomes being the greatest, but y'all both think Mahomes will win, even though he's the underdog. How closer does this get him, this game, if you were to win this game, in y'all's eyes, to being close to Brady?
That would, I'm not sure if he'll ever get 7 Lombardis, right? So
yeah, for sure. I mean, we're not expecting that. I don't think he needs to be that to be the greatest. Like, Bron doesn't have as many as MJ, but we still think he's a GOAT. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just wondering how much closer, being that he's an underdog. The other team is much better, obviously, and the factor over there is just him basically, and obviously Kelsey. But
yeah, I mean, if he goes down with 3 rings at 28, 3 Super Bowl MVPs probably, he's making great fucking time. Like we said, I think he's the best quarterback we've ever seen. He just has to run up those accolades a bit more to be the greatest. So he's on great fucking time if he gets this third one, for sure.
I want, if he wins this game and they make a documentary called The GOAT, like a last chance style thing about Patrick Mahomes, surpassing Brady, I want to be a talking head and I want to be interviewed about this season. And the only quote I will give is, he played with Kadarius Toney and won the Super Bowl.
The end. Got the
You'll start ticking off Hall of Famers on the 49ers defense. And,
and one other question. I thought, like, when one of the 4 games I watched was the AFC Championship, right? And, one team looked like they'd been there before. The other one looked extremely fucking nervous. You know what I mean? When it comes to
actually good analysis. Sorry.
Okay, I'll take that. Thank you. But like, I think one thing, like, I watched like 2 49ers games all year, and Purdy just looked comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think his disposition, like, as good as the 49ers are, he just has to not be fucking up. Do you think that's enough for him to win, to beat Mahomes, just not being a fuck up because that team is so good?
You want to give your thoughts?
I don't think that being good enough is going to beat Mahomes. I don't. But if there is a team where you could just be good enough to beat Mahomes, it's the 49ers, right? With that defense they have with CMC, with Debo, with Kittles, right? But I think you're going to have to play on a somewhat close level to Mahomes to keep up.
Jesus Christ. That's respect from Purdy?
I do not. That's why I've got Mahomes and the Chiefs winning it. Right? It's going to be inside in a dome. Biggest game. They got 2 weeks to scheme. I'm going Mahomes and the Chiefs here, bro.
I think if he doesn't turn the ball over, just kind of another way of saying if he doesn't fuck up, I think they've got a pretty good shot in this thing. Yeah, but what you said about sort of the teams being kind of nervous, that's what really struck me. Like watching both the Niners and the Chiefs, especially the Chiefs throughout and then the Niners at the very end there, I was like, oh, these teams both look like they've been here before.
Mhm.
You saw the Lions making mistake after mistake after mistake, the Ravens offense doing the same. And it just felt like the moment, and I never give analysis like this, but it felt like the moment was too big for those teams. It's a reason why we often see the same teams year after year. And then this is obviously a rematch. So yeah, I think if Purdy doesn't turn it over, that's a great, actually, like, would I pick him? I probably still lean Chiefs, but it would be pretty close.
I think like Lamar's nerves were almost palpable. And I was wondering that's why I was wondering, like, is he built for this situation? Like when I was thinking about it, like, because, your disposition kind of decides that in the
This is a
moment.
March
You don't know
1st
if you get
conversation, my brother.
You said what?
This is a March 1st conversation, my brother.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right. It's only the second.
No, get your shit up. You're going somewhere good with this. For real.
It's kind of early in the month to ask this question. But no, the thing was, like, I'm just wondering if the man has a disposition because he looked so nervous. Like, if he just had a bad game, that's one thing. But if he looked like he was overthinking, uncomfortable, as somebody that barely watches the game, I noticed that. You know what I mean? And that's what made me worry when it came to Lamar. Like, it's not about does he have the goods. We all know that. You know what I mean? But, like, in the big moments, it's not your body that decides if you can play. It's your brain. You know what I mean? And not as far as intelligence. It's just, are you comfortable in these big pressure moments? And that's what I didn't see, And I mean, like the throw in the triple coverage. Like, bro.
Yeah.
As a me, would never throw that. You know what I mean? Like, you feel me? And I have no athletic bone. I'm not like that. You feel what I'm saying? And so it's like, that made me think, is man just uncomfortable in these type of moments? And it's not. So that's what made me wonder watching the game. It's just the nerves more than anything. I had some questions.
That was a good one.
Okay.
That's more of a
No, but-
comment than a question.
Well, yeah, you're right. I asked some. I go some insight.
Yeah.
Not really.
Here's
but
a
whatever.
take for
Anyway,
you.
yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
you feel
yeah,
like though
yeah.
Brock Purdy likes that? Like he never there was that ball where he like kind of flipped it to, it was an insane throw that he never should have attempted. And Juwan Jennings makes an amazing catch. And of course everybody's like, Brock Purdy, what a gamer, which is like literally what I was in a nutshell. But however, the fact that he was willing to take those risks is ultimately at the end why they won.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I am like, I like to think that I'm like analytics forward, like intelligent sports fan. And then my mom and I did call each other after his first start, after we watched his interview on NBC or wherever, and we're like, that's the guy. Like, you could just see it in his eye. Like, look at his eyes. You could just see that that's the guy. Like, I know, Jimmy Garoppolo never looked like the guy to us. Like, he was too smooth. This dude, like, that's the guy. Yeah, like he was too. Like, my mom's from Idaho. She lives in Central Washington. So she was like, that's not the type of dude. You know what I mean? Like,
You don't trust handsome? Never trust handsome.
Does not
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I was thinking about the last Super Bowl these teams play in Miami, which was like the pre-pandemic. So it was right before the pandemic. I don't know if you guys remember. And I remember I never go to there's like a media day where the teams come at the beginning, and I don't know why I was there for some reason, but I do very vividly remember when Jimmy Garoppolo walked in, and then they take their little podiums, like a palpable gasp from the crowd at how handsome he was.
Right.
Like, I've never seen humans respond to an athlete, because usually like an athlete will be like athlete hot, like where everyone's kind of joking about it and whatever.
Yeah.
He looks like a movie star
For
in a way
sure.
that transcends, like men and women were like, oh my God. Like
People
this
who
is
spend their lives looking good professionally often don't have the teeth that Jimmy Garoppolo has. Like, people who devote like 6 hours a day to like, okay, I'm going here, I'm going here. It's
jarring.
yeah.
He might as well walked in with like a tank top on and an axe in his hand. That's how it sounds like. You know what I mean? Like everybody's in awe. Why? You know what I mean?
He's
Like a
that
full
level
beard.
of handsome where men are comfortable talking about how handsome he is.
Almost like
be a
That handsome, that level is very low for me though. Like,
it's
for most men, I understand. Yeah.
It's low on this podcast, but I did like that's like a running joke of mine with a friend about Jimmy Garoppolo. Was like there's like 4 guys that like straight men are allowed to find attractive at any given point, right? Like you could talk about like Brad Pitt or like, and Jimmy Garoppolo is that guy. So like in the middle of for absolutely no reason, like I would be watching a football show or something. They'd just be like, Jimmy Garoppolo makes a great throw here. Look at that smile. And you just be like, what?
But no, you get it though. You got it. You got it.
It's the
you understood it.
justifying him, and it's like
Right.
ain't no thing. Okay, let me ask you this: a lot of prop bets. Who's going to be the MVP, whatever? Who's the most handsome player in the Super Bowl?
In this Super Bowl,
Both teams. Think carefully.
I don't know. It might. Travis Kelce with that state trooper mustache really ain't it. I think he runs away with this if he has a beard.
Yeah,
That's
You
a good
remember
had the
one.
beard.
He shaved it, and everybody was like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
You got to rethink this.
We've all had that moment on this podcast, as a matter of fact, with ourselves and our wives. Yes.
Facts.
Oh, we leave that thing on. Okay. All right. Got it.
Never do that again for sure. I mean, I still think it's Travis probably, right?
Yeah,
Fred
I
Warner?
would probably think so.
Fred Warner.
Fred Warner's a handsome dude.
Jackson just said, I think Fred Warner. He told me, I think it's Fred Warner. He wanted me to say that. He's
I think,
what's that, Cyrano? Like he's out here like behind me telling what to say.
Exception, yeah.
Right,
I'm gonna go with I watched the game with my family because it's too stressful.
Sorry.
I'm gonna say it's Brandon Ayuk because of when he was talking about the ladybug. That was like the
That was
cutest
cute.
thing.
That was
That was
cute.
like
Yeah, that
the
was
cutest. Like my daughter was like almost broke my finger. She grabbed my hand. So she's 6 years old or she's 8 years old. She loves ladybugs. She was like, the ladybugs won us the game, and I was like, I know. Like this is the team of destiny. We got the ladybug.
That's cute.
I'll go with Ayuk.
Hey, Josh wanted to make sure you didn't want to say Nick Bosa. You sure?
That's
I
worse.
don't
sure?
appreciate it,
You wanna put
Josh.
your
I know
vote
you
on.
said you were a Bosa guy. You said,
You
at
don't
last
Bosa
pod, you were
jersey?
like, I'm a Bosa guy.
You did say earlier you think he makes a lot of good points.
Wow.
Yes, get him.
No, the Nick
Get
Bosa
him!
games during the games take me out. When the ones about how he didn't want to sack Jared Goff.
When they showed that clip of him crying when they lost the last Super Bowl, so I'm saying, man, he's just crying because he found out Biden won Pennsylvania.
No, the one that killed me when they were saying like, why doesn't he have a going in the first half against the Lions? They said he didn't expect to come out and have it look like a PWI offense. Like he didn't have no fodder, he didn't have the fodder that the fire he needed in the engine. Mina, they've
And
been
that's your
killing
guy.
me.
And
They've
that's
been
your
killing
guy.
me over
That's
Nick
your
Bosa
boy.
on this
That's
show.
your
We're
boy.
a Trent Williams, Debo Samuel football team, through and through.
I don't know.
You were like, I
I
voted
don't
for
know,
Obama.
man.
I'm a
Twice.
Trent Williams fan.
I'm a big Trent Williams fan. I would have voted for Trent Williams for a third time if I could. All right, Mina, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Looking forward to seeing what else you have next week. And we're very much looking forward to Love is Blind content as we reach, as we get into the future. There's those weird Mina Kimes stuff.
Hell yeah.
We should all, in unison, like, you know what I'm saying? And in unity, you know what I mean? Bye.
I can do the receiver thumb.
The
Oh,
double jointed
horrible.
joints.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thanks, Mina.